Hello, my beautiful cuddlebugs. Welcome to Ramblings of a Book Dragon, where we dive into the warmth of good books and unravel stories that feel like a literary hug. I'm Allie, your host, and I'm thrilled to embark on another cozy adventure with you. So grab a cup of your favorite beverage, snuggle into your cozy reading nook, and let's begin. Before we do, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe so that you won't miss a single podcast episode. I really value your feedback and book recommendations. Now let's begin with today's episode. Back in May, I read 8 books for 2,950 pages. They were mainly adventurous, mysterious, emotional, and lighthearted. Genres were fantasy, young adult, mystery, historical. I'm not going to bore you today with talking about all 8 books since I've been a bit slow this past month with popping out reviews, but I wanted to at least give the list before focusing on the book that I read this most recently and wanted to review because it kind of got on my nerves, so I thought that might be a bit more entertaining. The list goes Happily Never After 3 stars, Dealing with Dragons 4 stars, A Botanist's Guide to Flowers and Fatality 4 stars, The Fairy Bargains of Prospect Hill 4 stars, 2 Part Sugar, 1 Part Murder 3 stars, and also Her Radiant Curse 6 Crimson Cranes, and The Dragon's Promise, all written by Elizabeth Lynn. Now, today's book review is going to be Say You'll Be Mine by Naina Kumar. This book was cute, I will admit, it made me laugh, but it also made me mad because the whole shtick with this book, at least to me anyway, I can see why it's popular, but the main issue for me is that the two refused to communicate. Like they would want to say their feelings, they would want to say what they wanted, and then the other person would open their big fat mouth, and then they would get scared and decide, nah, they don't need to know this, it's okay, I can figure it out, it's all good. But they just refused to flipping communicate with each other, and let's begin the review, shall we? It's a fake relationship trope between Meghna and Karthik. Meghna's best friend Seth is getting married, and he asked her to be his best man. And now they had briefly dated in college. They had become friends during a writing class. And you could see from the beginning that he was using her because he would always ask her for feedback on his songwriting. He became a really big singer, and she decided to go the route of being a playwright. And he would be really, really critical of her work. And Karthik, he hears all this, he sees the way Seth's talking to her, and he's trying to figure out, like, how is it that she's okay with this? The one time that Meghna actually gives him a criticism because he's wanting to write a love song for his fiancée, his bride, to sing at the wedding, and she's like, no, you need to rewrite this. He gets really pissy. And that's something that was kind of weird to me, and I kind of wish that the author went a little bit deeper into it with her. Like, she kind of glossed over it, like the fact that they were dating, and he had decided that they would be better off as friends, and she had accepted it, and she was kind of still in love with him. And Karthik's mom has been arranging for him to meet all these young women to try to get him to get married. He's agreed because he just wants to make his mom happy, and while he's decided he never wants to be married, which he never told his mother because he's already been a bit of an asshole to her in the past anyway, his father is really just abusive and sounds like he's maybe a bit of a narcissist. His father is a professor at NYU medical school, and he's been very distant and neglectful, and Karthik just hates him, and he doesn't want to do anything that could possibly ever make his father proud of him. But he does want to make his mom happy, and his mom was arranging for him to meet Meghna, and that's how this whole started. And so Karthik is like, hey, I still have to meet all these other women. Why don't we pretend to be engaged so that I don't have to meet all these other women? Meghna's like, hell no, I don't know you. Why would I do this? You're a robot. Like, they had a very awkward first meeting. And then Meghna thinks about it with her best friend Seth and his wedding, and she's like, okay, yeah, I'll do this if you agree to be my fiance for this wedding. So that's what that's all about, and them kind of starting to get to know each other with the fake dating, and they never really tell anyone. Like, she tells her best friend that it's a fake relationship, and her best friend is supposed to be getting married to someone else, and they go to that, but then it turns out that this whole book is a mess of people just refusing to communicate with each other, because apparently her best friend had a really big crush on her brother who was in India, and he had returned for some other things that were going on, and they wind up making out at the engagement party for her best friend. Magna sees this and gets really pissed off at her best friend, and it's just no one's talking to each other in this book ever. No one's communicating at all. It's just a lot of that kind of messiness in this book, which was kind of fun in a way, but also very irritating, because it's like, when is anyone going to actually have a conversation? Like, her best friend and Magna do have a conversation, and her best friend winds up telling her fiance, and they wind up breaking up. And then she's like, I need to take some time. I'm not going to rush into anything. I need to make sure of what I'm doing, because her brother coming back to town for a job interview, because he's wanting to come back, and he was going to accept a job in the town, but he didn't want to make her best friend feel uncomfortable or pressured to make any decisions, which was very nice. And this was all done like near the end of the book. And so slowly but surely, we're starting to kind of unravel the hows and whys of why Karthik and Meghna are the way they are. Like, Karthik is an engineer. Part of this as well is Karthik is wanting to become a project manager, and a VP. His boss was going to retire soon. She decides to put him up for the promotion because he tells her that he's engaged, and she's like, oh, well, this is great. You're finally being stable, because I guess he was bouncing around to all these different engineering roles in the company, and he's settled on AC stuff. And so she says, hey, you're sticking to it. You seem to like it. You're stable. You're engaged. Come to my retirement party. People, let's get this going. And it was kind of funny because he was jealous of one of Seth's groomsmen, because the groomsman is in biomedical engineering, which is what he finds actually really interesting, not AC stuff. But he doesn't want to touch biomedical with a 10-foot pole because it's too close to being a doctor, and he doesn't want to make his father proud. The only really good thing about Karthik, in my opinion, in this book is he is really, really supportive of Meghna, of her dreams, and he kind of helps her see that Seth is an ass and he was using her. All that, where he's encouraging her to follow her dreams. He tells her about these programs that she can go into for writing, and it's like a graduate school but space of being playwrights. So he's encouraging her to look into that. And so she finally decides, like, because she's a teacher and she's putting together this musical, My Fair Lady. Karthik has never been to a play before, even though he grew up in New York City. So she has him come to this, and he's like, wow, this is amazing. And he wants to continue to enjoy it, which I think is pretty cool. And so he's really encouraging her. He's very supportive of her, which is really great. But he's like, I'm never going to get married. I don't want to do that. But Meghna's like, I can't be in a relationship with you knowing that you never want to be married, because I want to be married someday. And so I appreciate the fact that she was being forthcoming. Like, she's setting that bar. Like, she knows what she is wanting. She wants to be married someday, which is great. And Karthik's like, I don't want to be married. So why would they try to do something like that if they're both wanting different things? So that was kind of another issue with his book, is like, he's starting to realize he's in love with her and she realizes she's in love with him, blah, blah, blah. But there's like, there were several instances where they were going to say, hey, let's stop this fake relationship and let's make it real. Let's continue this fake relationship. Let's see what's going on. And Meghna does this at one point. She wants to talk to him, but then he decides to be an asshole and just says something. And she's like, okay, nope, I'm not going to say anything about this. And then he wants to say something, and she thinks, like, there's all these times where they think they know what's going on. Like, they have this kiss. And this happens near the beginning of the book. She really liked the kiss, and she wants to continue to kiss him. But then she thinks that she's confused when he's confused, because she thought that it was a great kiss. And he thinks that she didn't like it at all for whatever reason. But it's like that whole, they're just inside of each other's heads too much. I know I keep on talking about this, but it's just like, just use your words. And it's 99.9% of the book is them not communicating with each other. And then at the very end, because it's at the end of the book, so naturally they have to get their heads out of their asses at some point, they finally have this big conversation where they're like, hey, I really like you. And Meghna's like, okay, I know you don't want to be married. That's fine. I want to see where this goes. I want to explore this and see what happens as a real relationship. And she was concerned because she didn't want to have her heart broken. But then her father and her brother basically convinced her to be open and honest. Mainly her brother convinces her to be open and honest with Karthik because he's like, you'll never know. You'll always question what could have been if you don't use your words, if you don't talk to him. And that kind of gets her to realize, hey, I need to actually have a conversation with this guy. And Karthik realizes that he doesn't want to lose Meghna. He's fallen in love with her and he wants to explore all this. So they finally have a conversation. He finally realizes that it's okay for him to explore these things. Like, he doesn't need his father's approval. Like, he's known this, but like one of the other big things is everyone needs therapy. And I do appreciate that at the end of the book, Karthik finally realizes that he needs therapy, and he does get into therapy to figure out how to handle this with his father, because his father winds up being fired from his job and everything. So he decides, oh, I'm just going to go back to India. I have a new grant, because he refuses to admit to any wrongdoing. So, and his mother is just absolutely like, yay, this is great. I'm not going with him. I'm staying put. And that's all great. So it all becomes happily ever after for everyone involved. It's just like, okay, like it's cute, but I wish that and I realize that that's the point. They need to have the big grand gesture, and that needs to be at the end of the book. But it would have been nice if there was, it was just very frustrating. I can see why people were saying what they were saying in the reviews. So I gave it about a 3.5 stars. Yeah, like it was very cute at the end. He proposed because he realizes he wants to spend the rest of his life with her. But yeah, that's about it. If any of the other books sounded like books that you want me to review, please feel free to let me know. I was debating doing a full review of comparing Her Radiant Curse, Six Crimson Cranes, and Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim. I was thinking about doing that. Please let me know if that's something that you would find interesting. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe so that I know how you feel. And as always, my beautiful cuddlebugs, enjoy your books, enjoy your cozy reading nooks, and I will catch you next time. Goodbye.